What's up, y'all? This is the Good Guys with Guns podcast. I don't have any music or any cool catchphrase, and I'm using the term podcast very loosely because I know nobody in their right mind would be hearing this or looking for this. I'm new to the shooting sports community, and I listen to a ton of podcasts, and like everybody who enjoys shooting and enjoys podcasts about shooting, I listen and I think, man, I could do that. I would enjoy recording myself talking about guns and shooting and that sort of thing. So here goes nothing. I'm recording this on my way home from today's IDPA match. I'm not an experienced shooter. Maybe in another recording I'll share with you my story about guns and getting involved in this. But for today, I wouldn't mind recording a few of my thoughts about IDPA, which, as I mentioned, I have very little experience with. I've shot in about 4 matches, I believe. And my claim to fame is placing in one of the unclassified, great unwashed squads of newbies. So I got a ribbon, and I'm looking at that ribbon right now as I record this podcast about IDPA shooting. I enjoy it very much for what it is. I'm not the hugest IDPA fan you'll ever meet. I'm also not an IDPA basher. I know some folks are very against the sport because they think it's unrealistic, it's too scripted, they don't like the rules, they don't like the way matches are conducted. And I have an open mind to many of those criticisms. I may even repeat one or two in the course of this brief recording. But for what it is, I think IDPA is a really good experience. It certainly is the next step for somebody who goes and does range shooting. I've done a lot of that. I shoot pretty regularly, once a week, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but I shoot pretty regularly. And like a lot of folks who go to the range, that process of taping up your target, running it out there 7, 10, 15, 20 yards and shooting static, no holster work, no real reload work to speak of. I did that for a while, still do, to be perfectly honest, and that does get a little tired quickly. So I researched competitive shooting, and not that I think that I'm very good. I know I'm not good, and I'm not at all competitive in this sport here. But I was looking for the experience, and IDPA was a league that I came across on YouTube and online and other ways. Several clubs in my area, to my surprise, host IDPA matches. It's kind of a big thing where I am. And so I attended a match a while back, just watched it, and at the end of the day, I participated in it and did horribly, as you'd expect. I've participated in a few more, I almost say competed, but what I do is not at all competitive. I participated in a few more since then and have gotten more and more comfortable with it, and I have enjoyed it more and more as well. It's wonderful time behind the trigger, you know. It's not hardcore tactical training, but it does give shooters experience in shooting somewhat tactically, you know, in tactical sequence or tactical priority. It does introduce concepts of the use of cover, the use of concealment. It does introduce these kinds of things to a shooter's mind. And there's a speed component in it, although anyone who's good will tell you not to focus on that at the beginning. Just worry about doing the right things slowly, smoothly, and let the speed develop from there. If you're brand new to IDPA shooting, and I'm basically gearing these brief comments that I have to those who are brand new to IDPA shooting, I believe I could help with a few things. When you arrive at the IDPA match, some things that were kind of interesting to me were that the match is not very friendly for gun handling. As a matter of fact, in nearly all matches you will go to, there will be designated safe areas, and these are areas in which you are allowed to handle your gun only. No ammunition is to be present in these safe areas. So if you want to handle your gun at an IDPA match, you need to find these designated safe areas. Ammunition can be handled just about anywhere else except for these safe areas. And the only place where you are expected to handle both your gun and ammunition is on the firing line when you're called up and the range officer instructs you to load and make ready. That was kind of a new concept to me. That took a little getting used to be perfectly honest. You know, as somebody who goes to various ranges to shoot, you're not exactly programmed to think in those terms. But at an IDPA meet, you have designated safe areas, and again, those are the places where you may handle your gun only, no ammunition. And just about anywhere else, you may handle your ammunition, loading mags, doing that kind of stuff. And the only place where you handle both gun and ammunition is on the firing line when you are instructed by the range officer to load and make ready. In IDPA shooting, each stage has a maximum of 18 shots. So you won't do a ton of shooting in these various stages, and that's a maximum, again, of 18 shots. It's very common to find stages that have 12, 14 shots. So you're not just going to be running around spraying bullets everywhere in IDPA stages. And in the matches that I've participated in, there have been 6 stages. So in a day's work, you can expect to spend about 100 rounds of ammunition, give or take a little. In today's match, I think I only shot about 80 rounds of ammunition, and that's not too bad. You know, you do that in a live situation. Again, not the most tactical training that you'll ever come across. Some of the IDPA detractors take a look at the walkthrough at the beginning of each stage. At the beginning of each stage, all the squad participants will come together, and the range officer will walk you through the field of fire, instructing you how to engage each of the targets. This is wholly unrealistic for a real live gunfighting situation, and that's what some of the IDPA haters will seize upon, kind of to criticize. It's a fair thing to point out. However, for what it is, I think IDPA does fill a pretty important niche with the introduction of some of the concepts we discussed earlier.
Tactical priority,
which is engaging targets in the deemed most tactically advantageous way. Most of the times in IDPA, this will take the form of slicing the pie. You know, being behind cover, engaging the targets as you see them, slicing the pie from outside to inside. That's usually the way that sort of thing works out in these at least localized club level matches. Tactical sequence would involve engaging each target. Usually there's just a pair of targets, at least in the matches that I've competed in. A pair of targets side by side, and a tactical sequence would require you to engage each target once before you engage a target the second time. So you would shoot the target on the left once, shoot the target on the right once, and then you're free to re-engage those targets with a second or a third round in any order, depending on how the match is set up. So these kind of concepts are introduced to the shooter. Also, IDPA is not unique, but it's known for its utilization of concealment. So covered garments, usually in the form of those silly-looking vests, are required in most of the stages. There may be some stages where no concealment garment, no cover garment is required, but you can expect to be required to wear a cover garment in many of the stages. So it's pretty cool, and it, in many people's opinion, including my own, beats the pants off of going to a range and doing straight-on static work. So for what it is, it's quite an enjoyable experience. In today's match, I got to shoot prone with a handgun for the first time. There was a wide open stage. I forget how many targets, but quite a few, including some metal poppers that released other targets. And shooters had the option to shoot this standing along a wall using various holes of cover, or you could just drop below that wall and shoot prone, which is what most of us did because we thought that was a pretty neat opportunity that we don't usually get. So we did that. I did that. Several of us did. And that was pretty fun. I'm still so bad at this that, I don't really do a lot of thinking, although there were a few stages today where I found myself accidentally being a tad bit strategic with the number of rounds that I was firing, where I was planning reloads and that sort of thing. So who knows, if I stick with this, I may accidentally get a little bit better at this. I'm not even an IDPA member. I should really fix that, whether I plan on competing in additional IDPA matches or not. I should become a member of the International Defensive Pistol Association, because it's a good organization, and they stand up for the things that I believe in, and they're certainly worth the little bit of money that a yearly membership costs. With a yearly membership, I think you get a bi-monthly magazine, which I'll probably get some enjoyment out of, I suppose. IDPA is pretty popular in my area. I think that I could probably participate in matches just about every week with minimal driving, which I know I'm really fortunate to be in that kind of position. As I've thought more about IDPA and further participation in it, what I think I would like even more than participating in the matches would be walking through some of the practices. I've never done IDPA style practices. I really should make that a priority. Just the scheduling of it hasn't really worked out with me. I've even thought about giving a couple of the guys who run this match a call and seeing if they would be willing to host me for a private. That would be ideal, throw $75 or $100 their way, and spend some good time walking through these matches and maybe get a little bit better at this. I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that a whole lot. I might like that even more than the actual matches, because I still feel the pressure. Even though I know I'm not competitive, and even though I know I stink, there's kind of a natural competitive streak in me that wants to push things a little harder and faster than what my skill allows. And I'm still at the point where after each stage, I'm saying to myself, man, I wish I could go back and shoot that again. I know I could, if I could just spend a little bit of time on this stage here, shoot it 2 or 3 times, I know I'd learn a whole lot and probably get much better that way than taking this competition as a whole. But that's a little pipe dream, pie in the sky kind of thinking, I have to do what I'm able to do, and what I'm able to do at this point with my schedule is participate in a match or 2 a month, and not a whole lot else in the IDPA format. I supplement that with some general shooting range work, but really these things are pretty different in a lot of ways. But it's all time behind a trigger. It's all experience and accuracy, reloading, speed, these kind of things. I'm increasing my comfort level with a handgun, and I think that's a responsibility of any handgun owner, is to be competent with these. I didn't always think that. I believed at one point that I would just purchase a handgun and set it in a drawer somewhere until I needed to use it. Hopefully never, but you never know. Things were deteriorating to such an extent that I thought I might need to use this sometime. And then I got to thinking more about my responsibilities as a handgun owner, and IDPA seemed like a pretty natural step in the journey of being a more responsible handgun owner and operator. So if you've never participated in an IDPA match, I would certainly encourage you to give it a try. I will warn you, it's quite addictive. There was a new shooter in our squad today, and he had the gleam in his eye. He loved it. And it definitely is something that, if you enjoy shooting and you enjoy shooting in a way that's slightly more tactical than just straight on static paper right in front of you at a gun range, then you will really enjoy IDPA a lot. I would encourage you to sign up for a local meet. As a first-time shooter, you will usually shoot each stage last, which is a pretty significant advantage. You're able to see all of the shooters in your squad go before you and learn a whole lot from what you see them do. So as a brand new shooter, you'll be last in each of the stages. That'll be a help to you. While it's true that I have found that there's a lot of ego in the gun owner community, I've also found that there are some pretty cool guys that you'll meet in IDPA shooting. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, though. I'm not going to lie to you. Another hobby that I do is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it is entirely opposite in terms of the presence of ego. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you're familiar with it, there is very, very, very little ego involved. In shooting competitions, it seems that there's just a ton of ego involved. Now, that may not be a fair thing to say generally, but in my limited experience, I've certainly found it to be to be that way. So be aware of that. One of the things that I try to do to mitigate that is just kind of really keep my mouth shut. I'm a yes sir, no sir kind of guy, and when you show up for one of these things, just about everybody and his dog will have some sort of advice to give you. Take all that with a grain of salt, I suppose. I'm very open-minded to it. I listen to everything. But really, it's impossible for you to implement every tip that everyone will give you, because you'll find some of these tips to be wholly contradictory and just not something that's very practical for you. So as far as advice goes, I'm terrible, so I have very little that I could give. But I would say, slow and steady is better than fast and sloppy. And I need to remind myself of that a whole lot more. IDPA seems, again, from my very, very narrow vantage point, to be pretty generous to somebody who is an average shooter quick. In other words, if you have quite a generous target for IDPA shooting. There's a nice pie plate in the center of a human silhouette target, and that's the sweet spot that you want to hit. But outside of that little pie plate target, you have a big, big area that will only penalize you 1 point. So whereas you hope to be down 0, no penalty points on any of your targets, it's very easy to shoot a target and be down only 1, because that is a pretty large portion on the target. So again, from my limited vantage point, it would appear that is very friendly to the person who is an average shooter, average to above average shooter, but you're quick. So the tendency, I believe, will be to shoot fast and to kind of be slightly inaccurate. Now, if you're grossly inaccurate, you're going to have a bad day. But if you're slightly inaccurate in IDPA shooting, your time can offset that slight inaccuracy. So you run through a stage and you post a pretty quick time, say 25 seconds, but you're down 1, you have 1 penalty point per target. Well, that could add 6, 8, 10 seconds to your overall time. So your raw time might be 25 seconds. That's the time that it takes you to shoot through the stage. But your inaccuracy points add up to be 10, let's say. Well, those 10 points will be converted into seconds and added to your raw time, giving you an overall stage time of 35 seconds, which isn't terrible, which isn't terrible. And then as your accuracy improves, then you are evaluated based on your raw time primarily. So, again, I know nothing about anything here. I'm terrible at this, but I do have my 3rd place ribbon right here in my hand, which I know doesn't mean anything. Just teasing about that. But from my limited perspective, it seems like if you are an average to above average shooter in terms of accuracy, if you can make yourself be quicker, you would do decent. You would do fairly well, maybe in some cases, with these IDPA stages. But the main objective is to follow all the safety rules. You definitely want to do that if you accomplish nothing else. Have a safe day, and you want to have fun, man. It's quite enjoyable. I really think any kind of visions of grandiose competitiveness are a little silly until you get, 10, 15, 20 or more matches under your belt. I know that I don't at all entertain notions of being competitive. And some folks would say it's not even necessary to want to be competitive. Some of the true IDPA detractors say, hey, being competitive in IDPA shooting requires you to do some tactically unsound things. I don't know that I completely buy all of that, but if that's what somebody thinks, then I can completely appreciate that point of view. So research IDPA a little bit more. Whether you compete or participate in matches or not, I think you'll find this organization, International Defensive Pistol Association, to be worthy of your support. I need to practice what I'm preaching here and go ahead and sign up for a membership myself. I haven't done that yet, but I believe in what the organization stands for, and we'll be doing that very, very, very soon. I'll also be participating in more matches very soon. I'll also be probably recording a few more of these Good Guys with Guns podcasts. And I would expect that I'll be getting a little bit better as I do along the way. It'd be hard to get much worse, So be on the lookout for a few more of these, and be on the lookout for IDPA matches in your area. Research the organization a bit more online. Sign up for them. They stand for the right things. IDPA folks are definitely good guys with guns, and they're worth both of our support.